I titled today's mind map, It Works Like Magic Because It Is. Now, I've been studying and applying the ideas from James Allen's As a Man Thinketh for over a decade now. And today's conversation is my 2023 reflections on the book. Here I'd like to discuss it from the perspective of attention and encouraging thoughts that are related to your vision alongside the power of this book when applied to automatically, one could say, ignore disharmony. And by ignore, this is beyond trying or forcing to ignore, rather allowing your attention to remain authentically on what is related to your vision without mental strain, in a loving, lighthearted way. You see, your attention is priceless, and as we discussed in Sunday's video, information that appears in this world can, from surrendering free will to a subconscious belief in mind in relation to an aspect of that information, can cause the mind to become distracted from the vision and oriented towards another end. And above all of this, you truly are. As in, you are formless and beyond belief, from which you have a choice as to where your attention goes, to information in relation to your vision or information in relation to wherever else. One definition for free will is the notional capacity or ability to choose between different possible courses of action unimpeded. And so why would anyone surrender their free will to anything outside the divine will of their higher self? Well, free will is surrender to consciously or unconsciously to beliefs which were formed through interpretation of experiences in life, a lot of times in earlier stages of life. Now, some of these beliefs can be helpful, and others not so much in relation to our vision. And this book reveals the power we have to discern. Beliefs where free will has been surrendered to play out, we can say, magically. That's because it is. The unseen power takes what you believe and externalizes it for you as the outer aspects of life, as it states in the Bible. As you believe, so it shall be done unto you. The unseen does it for you, as in beyond this personal self, by what this personal self believes. So you have free will to choose what you want to think, which forms your beliefs, and thus the changes that reflect as the outer aspects of your life in conformity to your choice. Now, one might not be aware that belief formation has occurred until they observe themselves in this world not moving in a direction of how they truly desire to be. Perhaps they seem to have lost a zest for life, which could indicate suppressed or repressed desires, because maybe they believed based on past experience, upon interpretation, that desires are a bad thing, and thus believed themselves into conformity to an undesirable belief due to lack of discernment at the time of formation. So to clarify belief as well by definition, it is a thought or idea that we have accepted as true. One might have believed something based on an opinion or an assumption. So whatever we are assuming, we want to check in with intuition, if it is loving and in relation to our vision. Simply put, anytime anyone, including myself, shares information with you, which may seem to indicate that reality is a certain way, they are revealing beliefs. This is true regardless if they are aware of it or not. Nevertheless, you have all the power to choose what to believe or not. And you will know based on results what works and what does not. Life experience is the truest teacher. So we start by acknowledging that all power for transformation is now and always now, in this moment. From there, we actually go beyond beliefs, and by this I mean simple acknowledgement that you exist beyond belief, as in the essence of you truly is existence itself, beyond any belief. From there, we can say we are born again to choose how you truly desire to be, as the spiritual self speaks to the natural self through the language of desire. Like a child who desires to be a star, an athlete, an inventor, or whatever. If they allow themselves to be denied to think for themselves or adopt thinking not true to encouraging what they truly desire, this could form subconscious beliefs which they surrender their free will to. So what begins as a word or thought, if persisted upon, and by that I mean further encouraged in some shape or form, becomes a personal truth or belief. And these beliefs can be held lightly or to a firm conviction based on the degree it is encouraged and confirmed. So each thought is an idea. The question is, are all ideas worth entertaining? Well, perhaps another way of looking at it is some ideas are worth entertaining for you, and some ideas are worth entertaining for others. For example, team members are segmented, and although interconnected in their relationship, they each focus on distinct thoughts individually and other thoughts collaboratively, and together as a whole they contribute to a definite major purpose or vision for the entire organization. Even the ones that seem to run rogue are embraced and integrated in contribution to the definite major purpose. So now we know that if we encourage certain thoughts in relation to people, environment, circumstance, and information, this could lead to the formation of subconscious beliefs. And let's say if a person gets their subconscious beliefs in sync to where they say they are having a good life, they find, as I and many have who I've spoken with, that they don't really consciously think as much as they did before in those areas. They have formed beliefs through which they allow the unseen power of their subconscious mind to do everything for them in those areas. And they find they could easily be in flow in those areas. And in those areas of their life, they would say everything happens automatically, naturally, and ideally. So what we're interested in here, when it comes to applying this book, is everything happening automatically and ideally, not automatically and not ideally. Rather being how we personally, truly desire to be, which is what we personally would consider ideal. So we dedicate time to thinking accurately, which we can do in a simple way that I'll share later. This does not mean consciously thinking or overthinking all the time, as we are either consciously or subconsciously doing it. Even if we silence our conscious thoughts, the subconscious is still running the functions of our body and life via the identified with subconscious beliefs. So what we want then is to think clearly and accurately for ourselves from our vision until those ideas become subconscious beliefs. And then, from there, everything in relation happens automatically and ideally. So in a way, one can call this brainwashing themselves, which is great because either we program ourselves to think how we want to think, or we can allow this world of made-up past beliefs, some helpful and others not so much, to randomly mold us into conformity by not practicing awareness. He states, mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put in, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein, and will continue to produce their kind. So there it is. At any moment, we have the opportunity to cultivate our mind with ideal thoughts in relation to how we truly desire to be, or allow opinions not true to how we truly desire to be planted in the garden of the mind, causing a person to drift. Perhaps they may not allow themselves to think ideally, and thus allow the not-so-ideal programming from the past to run their lives on autopilot, manifesting as the related outer conditions of life. Yet, if they only knew the power of thought, just one simple thought, for example, they can say, I can have what I desire, will renew and rearrange the entire structure of their being, leading to living an unwavering and unswayable path of a life based on how they truly desire to be. Now, the part where he states, allowed to run wild, this is beyond closing the mind to thoughts of how you truly desire to live, but rather being free from swaying from the vision. He says, of all the beautiful truths pertaining to the soul, which have been restored and brought to light in this age, none is more gladdening or fruitful of divine promise and confidence than this. We are the masters of thought, the molder of character, and the maker and shaper of condition, environment, and destiny. As beings of power, intelligence, and love, and the Lord of our own thoughts, all of us hold the key to every situation and contain within ourselves that transforming and regenerative agency by which we can make ourselves what we will. So thoughts that have been planted in mind and encouraged with autosuggestion, or any information that encourages the same thoughts, become truths, or we could say beliefs, held to deep conviction. Again, your essence is formless. And with the thought seeds you specifically choose and plant in your mind, you cultivate your garden, which externalizes as all the beautiful and lovely conditions, environments, and destiny. So now is where all your power is, by your own choice. You can believe that your thoughts are just happening to you, or can choose enlivening thoughts. It's totally up to you. You have all the power to plant thoughts into your mind that are related to how you truly desire to be. And you're always guided from within. The spiritual self speaks to the natural self through the language of desire. I personally wasn't born into an environment that seemed to encourage prosperity. As a matter of fact, there was a lot of suffering, traumatic situations, and hardship, lack of financial resources, you name it. Nevertheless, I'm personally glad those were my starting conditions, because there was still love all around me. And I had my Bible, and it said, as you believe, so it shall be done unto you. So I started to think upon Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. And those things became my beliefs and externalized as the life I now enjoy. And what makes you and I any different? You are formless in your essence, and you have a mind, and you can choose what to think. And what you think often turns into what you have accepted as true, and it plays out automatically as the outer aspects of your life. It's done for you. Again, as you believe, it is done unto you. As in, what you believe and how you believe it works is done for you. You start with self and then consciously choose thoughts you want to entertain. As he says here, they themselves are makers of themselves by virtue of the thoughts which they choose and encourage. That mind is the master weaver, both of the inner garment of character and the outer garment of circumstance, and that, as they may be hitherto woven in ignorance and pain, they may now weave in enlightenment and happiness. So what I trust you'll find complimentary is my 7-day mental diet video I released at the start of this year, which I'll link to in the description. This video helps cultivate the ability to observe thoughts neutrally and consciously choose what thoughts to entertain, which becomes easy when applying it. This is also, as I've been referring to, as remaining in the position of the unbiased observer, which from there, you could easily choose the thoughts to entertain, and these become your truths you live by and manifest with into form. This is particularly helpful when it comes to the internet. By applying it, you'll find yourself observing information for what it truly is, thoughts being shared. Another reason why I title Sunday's video, Stop Giving Free Will to Information. Thoughts presented on the internet, or anywhere for that matter, inherently have no power to polarize you. Rather, from the unbiased observer perspective, you choose what information you want to entertain, and the rest gets automatically ignored. And notice how I said automatically ignored, as in there is no need to force ourselves to ignore. We find the belief identified with in relation to the information and release the unnecessary identification to it. And the result being, you are aware of the information, but not polarized unnecessarily by it, nor reactive to it, nor identified to it, because there is no longer identity in mind in relation to the information that causes the mind to drift. Thus then, attention automatically remains on what is in harmony with the vision. This is the power of working with your mind rather than against it. Your mind is always helping you bring awareness to what is being polarized to, so that the identification to that belief, if unhelpful, can be released. Which is why I always say, you don't have to change all your beliefs. Many are helpful for day-to-day life. They allow you to navigate existence ideally and automatically without having to think about it. This is not about overthinking, but rather setting up the garden of your mind to not overthink. Think as applicable. As an entrepreneur, for example, thinking clearly and accurately. So to one who has cultivated their mind, ideally, mind and thoughts become their best friends. And to one who has not, mind and thought can seem like enemies, which actually they're not. As you return to an unbiased observer perspective, you'll see that the mind is not a problem, nor an enemy. Nor are there any thoughts of enemies in mind, unless we believe there to be so. And I wouldn't recommend that. Now, how does one purify the mind from inharmonious thoughts and beliefs while cultivating a mind that expresses out as all that is ideal in life, while also, if you'd like, inspire others to do the same? It is through linking thought with purpose, which simply means live how you truly desire to live, as he says here. Until thought is linked with purpose, There is no intelligent accomplishment. With the majority, the bark of thought is allowed to drift upon the ocean of life. Aimlessness is a vice, and such drifting must not continue for him who would steer clear of catastrophe and destruction. They who have no central purpose in their life fall an easy prey to petty worries, fears, troubles, and self-pityings, all of which are indications of weakness. So I put together a video a few weeks ago to create and live from a definite chief aim, as well as a video at the start of the year for crafting your vision. I trust you'll find those to be helpful. I'll link in the description to them. By having a definite major purpose in life, it is very easy to choose which thoughts to entertain and which to let pass. This will also help streamline information consumption to what is related to your vision. So let's discuss the importance of this when applying this book. He says we should conceive of a legitimate purpose in our heart and set out to accomplish it, and make this purpose the centralizing point of our thoughts. It may take the form of a spiritual ideal or a worldly object, according to your nature at the time being. But whatever it is, steadily focus the thought forces upon the object which you have set before you. Make this purpose the supreme duty and devote yourself to its attainment. This is the royal road to self-control and true concentration of thought. Even if one fails again and again to accomplish their purpose, as they necessarily must until weakness is overcome, the strength of character gained will be the measure of their true success. And this will form a new starting point for future power and triumph. Those who are not prepared for the apprehension of a great purpose should fix the thoughts upon the faultless performance of their duty, no matter how insignificant their task may appear. Only in this way can the thoughts be gathered and focused, and resolution and energy be developed, which being done, there is nothing which may not be accomplished. So this is where if challenges may appear, it's fine, as this garden of mind is being purified and being cultivated to higher degrees, which is why I recommend doing whatever you do each day from a state of flow. Because then, any challenges are met and wisely overcome. As he says something similar like that as well, although he does not mention specifically flow state in his book. But if you study James Allen and his writing process, you'll learn that he did various things so that he could write while in flow state. He says, they who have conquered doubt and fear have conquered failure. Their every thought is allied with power, and all difficulties are bravely met and wisely overcome. Now, while in flow state, we know that fear, doubt, and indecision tapers away and resistance is transmuted into active joy. So the simple way I like to apply everything we discussed today is with each thing that I do each day. I keep my mind on what I am doing, not from a place of force or boredom, but rather from a state of flow. I do this from when I wake up till I go to sleep, with breaks and rejuvenation and leisure time, of course. And even with my leisure time, I'm fully present, enjoying what I do. In these areas are genuinely where I want to be, and I have no desire to be anywhere else. I remain lightheartedly focused on the initiative from a state of flow, and my thoughts are automatically ideal, as they are ideal to what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is related to my vision, and I do this in all areas of my life, as they are related to my vision. they are also all related to each other. And so there is no space to dwell in the thoughts of disharmony. For really, it is not the thoughts that show up in mind, for whatever the reason may be, that matter, but the ones we choose to entertain that get planted in the garden of mind, which shape our character and ultimately our destiny. Also, the part here where he says, even if one fails again and again to accomplish their purpose as they necessarily must until weakness is overcome. This is referring to the beliefs behind seeming failure. I mean, what does failure really mean until one assigns meaning to the experience beyond mere optimization data for the next attempt? And so we see when he says, until weakness is overcome, it is not to imply that one is weak. It is to bring awareness to thinking in relation to the experience that perpetuates the illusion of weakness in mind, which I would suggest not encouraging. For example, let's take seeming failure in business, which again is optimization data. There are always ways to turn the seeming failure in business around. And I mean infinite. And this is beyond theory, rather practice, from my experiences working with businesses and having been exposed to thousands of them in many industries, offline, online, you name it, since 2009. And even for 10 years prior to that in my corporate career. If the person observes the experience from an unbiased observer perspective, they see things for how they truly are. And they think accurately and consider, for example, optimizing part or in whole or in combination the business model, positioning, front-end and back-end offers, and combination and or sequence presented to prospects and or existing clients, messaging, client service processes to include making additional offers integrated during performing the services and or referral orchestration in many different ways, incentivizing, risk reversal, social media, paid advertising, partnerships, countless lead generation strategies and techniques, rebranding, repackaging, and the list goes on. And I have, since I started this channel in 2013, sprinkled many examples throughout the videos, and even consolidated it in my entrepreneurial program. All easy and fun to apply. Which, by the way, if one thinks these are difficult to apply, that is only a belief brought to awareness in mind to release identification to. And so if you're interested in that program, I'll link in the description to it. He says, to desire is to obtain. To aspire is to achieve. Dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become. Your vision is the promise of what you shall one day be. Your ideal is the prophecy of what you shall at last unveil. The greatest achievement was at first, and for a time, a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn. The bird awaits in the egg. And in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You can say, I listen to myself and think for myself as I remain lovingly in the state of fulfilled desires in relationship with my vision to bring forth into form from the infinite world of imagination all that I desire through my authentic way of being, with peace and love-based thoughts planted in the garden of my mind, which expresses as a joyous, flow-based, blissful journey to actualizing my potential, which is infinite in love and spirit of harmony with all, as what I have done unto myself in mind, appears as what is done through me, as life experiences, all via the unseen power within me. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.